I faced death in Iraq, bullets tearing through the air, but nothing cut deeper than this. I collapsed, gasping for life, and my own son didn't bother to show. My daughter-in-law? She spat on my pain with a Facebook post. Finally free from the old man's pathetic drama. You think that's betrayal? Wait till you hear what I uncovered. Picture this. Killeen, Texas, a dusty town hugging the edge of Fort Hood, where the air smells of barbecue and the ghosts of military pride linger in every bar. I'm John Whitaker, 62 years old, a Marine Corps veteran who survived 2 tours in Iraq. I carried the weight of war sand in my boots, shrapnel scars on my shoulder, but I always thought my real fight was for my family. This 3-bedroom house on Cedar Lane, paid off with every cent of my late wife Ellen's life insurance and my VA pension, was supposed to be our sanctuary. After Ellen died of cancer 4 years ago, it felt empty, like a bunker after a ceasefire. That's when my son Michael, his wife Sarah, and their daughter, my little Lily, just 12, moved in. I thought I was doing right by them. "Dad," Michael said one night on the porch, beer in hand, "you shouldn't be alone in this big house. It's too much for you." His voice was smooth, like he was still the boy I taught to throw a football. Sarah chimed in, her eyes soft. "Lily needs stability, John. Let us take care of you." I believed them. I'm a Marine. Loyalty's in my blood. So I let them stay, thinking it was temporary, thinking family was my last stand. Hell, I even gave them the master bedroom, moving my old service medals to a cramped guest room. But something was off. Michael stopped meeting my eyes. Sarah's smiles turned sharp. And Lily, she started clinging to me, like she sensed the storm coming. I didn't know then that my own flesh and blood were digging a trench to bury me in. I faced ambushes in Fallujah, the kind where you feel your heart pounding like a war drum, but nothing prepared me for the ambush waiting in Killeen, Texas, on a scorching July afternoon in 2025. I was at the VFW post 9191, surrounded by my brothers in arms, swapping stories over cold beers at our annual Veterans Barbecue. The smell of ribs on the grill, the laughter of old comrades, it felt like home. Then it hit me, a sharp pain in my chest, like a grenade going off inside. My vision blurred, my knees buckled, and I collapsed right there on the grass, my buddies shouting for help. The ambulance screamed through town, and as I lay on that stretcher hooked to monitors, all I could think was, my family will be there. Michael will come. He's my son. But he didn't. The hospital room was cold, the fluorescent lights buzzing like flies over a battlefield. The doctor said it was a stroke, stress-induced, probably from years of carrying too much. They called Michael. I heard the nurse on the phone, her voice calm but urgent. "Mr. Whitaker, your father's had a stroke. He needs you at Killeen Memorial." I waited, staring at the clock, each tick like a bullet. An hour passed, then 2. No Michael, no Sarah, not even a text, just silence, heavier than any firefight I'd ever faced. I'm a Marine. I've stared down death, but lying there, alone, I felt something worse, abandonment. Then my phone lit up, not a call, not a message from my son, but a Facebook notification. Sarah had tagged me in a post. My hands shook as I opened it, expecting maybe a prayer, a "get well soon, John." Instead, I saw a photo that ripped my heart clean out. There they were, Michael, Sarah, and my sweet Lily sitting around my dining table, the one Ellen and I bought 30 years ago. They were grinning, plates piled high with steak and potatoes, like they were at a damn celebration. The caption: "Finally, a night free from the old man's drama. Family dinner, peaceful at last. Number blessed." 52 likes. My buddy Tom from the VFW had even commented, "Looks like a great night." I stared at that screen, the words burning into me like shrapnel. They weren't worried. They weren't rushing to my side. They were celebrating my absence in my house while I lay hooked to an IV, fighting to breathe. I scrolled through the comments, each one a fresh stab. Sarah's sister, Karen, wrote, "About time you got some peace." My cousin Dave added a laughing emoji. These people, my community, my family thought I was the problem. I was the old man causing drama, not the father who'd given everything. I'd handed Michael the keys to my home after Ellen died, thinking I was keeping us close, keeping Lily safe. But that night, as the hospital monitor beeped, I realized I'd been a fool. My son hadn't just ignored the hospital's call, he'd chosen to leave me there, alone, while they played happy family in the house I'd bled for. The nurse came in with discharge papers. "Mr. Whitaker, is your son picking you up?" she asked. Her voice soft, like she already knew the answer. I looked at the timestamp on Sarah's post, 7:42 p.m., right when the hospital called. Michael knew exactly where I was. He'd chosen that dinner, that smug post, over me. My voice came out steady, colder than I felt. "Number, I'll call a cab." As I sat in the hospital lobby, waiting for the ride, something snapped inside me, not despair, but rage. The kind of rage that carried me through war zones. I wasn't just a father anymore. I was a Marine, and I wasn't going down without a fight. I opened my phone again, not to call Michael, but to dial someone else. "Hey, Linda," I said, my voice low, like I was planning a mission. "It's John Whitaker. Remember that real estate agent you recommended? I need her number. I'm selling the house on Cedar Lane." Linda paused, surprised. "John, you sure? That's your family's home." I gripped the phone tighter. It stopped being a home when they started dancing on my grave. That call was the first step. I didn't know it yet, but I was about to uncover a betrayal far uglier than a Facebook post, a scheme that would make my stroke feel like a paper cut. The cab ride from Keeleen Memorial Hospital felt like a retreat from a losing battle. My chest still ached, not just from the stroke, but from the weight of that damn Facebook post. My son Michael and his wife Sarah grinning in my house, calling me a drama queen while I fought for my life. I'm John Whitaker, a 62-year-old Marine Corps veteran, and I'd faced hell in Iraq. But this betrayal was a new kind of war. As the cab rolled through the quiet streets of Killeen, Texas, past the familiar VFW hall and the neon glow of barbecue joints, I couldn't shake the image of my granddaughter Lily's face in that photo, caught in the middle of their sham. I swore to myself, no more. I wasn't just going to sell the house on Cedar Lane. I was going to find out what else they were hiding. It started with a phone call the next morning, while I sipped black coffee in my cramped guest room, surrounded by my old service medals and a fading photo of my late wife, Ellen. The bank called First National, where I'd kept my savings since I retired. "Mr. Whitaker," the teller said, her voice hesitant, "we noticed unusual activity on your account. Can you confirm a home equity loan application for $100,000? My blood ran cold. "What loan?" I barked, my Marine instincts kicking in. "I haven't applied for anything." She paused, then said, "It was filed 2 months ago, under your name, with your signature. The address listed is 1423 Cedar Lane. My house, Michael and Sarah's current address." I hung up, my hands shaking not from the stroke, but from rage so raw it felt like fire in my veins. I drove to the bank, still in my flannel shirt from the hospital, and demanded to see the paperwork. The loan officer slid a folder across the desk, and there it was. My name, my social security number, and a signature that looked like mine but wasn't signed. The loan had been approved, and $100,000 was already dispersed to an account I didn't recognize. "This isn't mine," I said, my voice low, like I was staring down an enemy. The officer frowned. "We'll need to investigate, but this looks like identity theft, Mr. Whitaker. Identity theft." The words hit like a mortar round. My own son, the boy I'd raised, taught to salute the flag, had forged my name to steal from me. I didn't stop there. I pulled my credit report online, sitting in my old pickup truck outside the bank, the Texas sun beating down. What I found was worse than any ambush. 3 credit cards I'd never opened, with balances totaling $25,000. Charges for a gym membership in Austin, $300 a month. Designer clothes from Nordstrom, $1,200 in one spree. Plane tickets to the Bahamas, $4,000, dated last Christmas when Michael told me they were too broke to visit. And then, the kicker, a $3,500 charge for a custom barbecue grill, the kind I'd always wanted but never bought, delivered to Cedar Lane while I was eating alone at the VFW. Every charge was linked to an account with Michael's phone number. Sarah's email was on the statements. They weren't just living rent-free in my house, they were funding a luxury life with my name. I called my buddy Ray, a retired JAG officer from Fort Hood. "John, this is fraud. Plain and simple," he said, his voice grim. "You need a lawyer now. And check your mail, see what else they've been hiding." That's when it hit me. For years, Michael had insisted on helping with my mail, redirecting everything to Cedar Lane after Ellen died. "Dad, you're grieving," he'd said. "Let us handle the bills." I'd trusted him, like a fool. I drove to the post office, my heart pounding like it did before a mission. The clerk confirmed it. My mail had been forwarded to Cedar Lane for 3 years. Bank statements, Virginia pension notices, credit card offers all intercepted by Michael and Sarah. I sat in my truck, staring at a stack of unopened mail I'd retrieved, feeling like I'd been gut-punched. How did I miss this? I muttered to myself. I'd given them my home, my trust, everything, and they'd turned me into their personal ATM. But one detail stuck out, buried in a credit report footnote, an inquiry from a law firm specializing in elder guardianship. My stomach twisted. This wasn't just about money, they were planning something bigger, something uglier. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white. "You want to play dirty, Michael?" I said aloud, my voice shaking with fury. "You just woke up a Marine." I was done being their victim. It was time to dig deeper, to find out just how far their betrayal went and to make them pay. The weight of betrayal settled over me like the dust of an Iraqi sandstorm, choking every breath. Sitting in my pickup truck outside the Killeen post office, clutching a stack of redirected mail, I was still reeling from the discovery of Michael and Sarah's fraud $100, 0-inch a forged home equity loan, credit cards racked up with their luxury purchases, all in my name. But it wasn't just the money. It was the realization that my own son and his wife had turned my home on Cedar Lane into their personal vault, while I was left to rot in a hospital bed. As the Texas sun sank low, painting the sky blood red, I felt something darker creeping in, a loneliness sharper than any wound I'd taken in Fallujah. They hadn't just stolen my money, they'd stolen my place in the world. I drove back to the house. My house, though it hadn't felt like mine in years. Walking through the front door, I saw Michael's boots by the couch, Sarah's yoga mat in the corner, Lily's drawings pinned to the fridge. It was their life now, built on my sacrifice. I'd given them everything after Ellen's death, my home, my trust, my heart, thinking it would keep us close. But as I sat in the guest room, surrounded by my old Marine Corps medals, I started piecing together a truth that cut deeper than their Facebook post mocking my stroke. They'd been erasing me, not just from the house, but from my entire community. I used to be the guy who organized the VFW barbecues, the one who'd fire up the grill and swap stories with my brothers in arms about Desert Storm and Iraq. Killeen was my town, Fort Hood my backyard. But over the last 3 years, those invitations dried up. My phone stopped ringing. My buddies Tom, Ray, even old Sarge from the Legion stopped dropping by. I'd blamed it on my grief, on getting older, but now I saw the pattern. I opened my laptop and dug into my email, something I hadn't checked in months because Sarah had helpfully set it up to forward to her. There it was, a chain of messages sent from my account declining invites to VFW events, Memorial Day cookouts, even a fishing trip with my old platoon. John's not feeling up to it, one email read, signed with my name. He's struggling with PTSD, another said. PTSD? I'd never been diagnosed. I'd carried my scars quietly like a Marine should, but Michael and Sarah had painted me as a broken man, too unstable to be around. It got worse. I logged into a local veterans forum, a place where we shared resources and stories. There, buried in a thread about supporting aging vets, was a post from Michael's account. My dad's been a real burden lately. The stroke didn't help. We're trying to manage him, but he's not himself anymore. 30 comments followed, full of sympathy for them. My buddy Tom wrote, "Hang in there, man. It's tough taking care of a vet like that." My cousin Dave added, "You're saints for dealing with his outbursts." Outbursts? I hadn't raised my voice since Ellen's funeral. My community, the men I'd fought beside, thought I was a ticking time bomb, a liability they were better off avoiding. Michael and Sarah hadn't just stolen my money, they'd stolen my honor, my place among my brothers. The final blow came when I found a letter, tucked in the stack of retrieved mail, from a VA counselor. It was addressed to me, but opened, the edges worn like it'd been read a dozen times. "Dear Mr. Whitaker," it began, "we're concerned about reports of your declining mental health. Your family has requested an evaluation for potential guardianship." Guardianship. The word hit like a bayonet to the gut. They weren't just isolating me. They were building a case to strip away my freedom, to lock me in some facility while they cashed in on my pension and property. I sat there, the letter trembling in my hands, feeling like I'd been abandoned on a battlefield with no backup. My son, my own blood, had turned my life into a lie. But Marines don't stay down. As the pain burned through me, so did a spark of defiance. I wasn't their victim anymore. I picked up the phone and called Ray, my JAG buddy. "Ray," I said, my voice hard as steel, "they're trying to have me declared incompetent. I need a lawyer, and I need one now." He didn't hesitate. "John, you're not alone in this. We'll fight this like it's 2003-inch Baghdad." That call was the first shot in my counterattack. I didn't know how deep their scheme went, but I was about to find out, and I'd make damn sure they faced the consequences. The betrayal had carved a hole in my chest deeper than any shrapnel wound from Iraq, but sitting in my pickup truck outside the Killeen post office, clutching that damning letter about a guardianship evaluation, I felt a fire ignite. Michael and Sarah hadn't just stolen $100,000 through forged loans and credit cards in my name, they'd tried to erase me, painting me as a broken-down vet to my own community. My home on Cedar Lane, the one I'd paid off with Ellen's life insurance and my VA pension, was their stage for this con. But I wasn't some fragile old man they could lock away. I was a Marine, and Marines don't surrender. It was time to face them head-on, to rip the mask off their lies and take back what was mine. I called Ray, my old JAG buddy from Fort Hood, and he connected me with Patricia Collins, a lawyer who chewed up fraud cases like a tank through a minefield. We met the next morning at a diner on Rancier Avenue, the kind of place where vets swap stories over greasy eggs and strong coffee. Patricia spread documents across the table: my credit report, the forged loan papers, the mail redirection forms. "John," she said, her voice sharp as a bayonet, "this isn't just theft. They've been laying groundwork to have you declared incompetent. Look at this." She slid over an email chain, forwarded from Sarah's account, between her and a lawyer specializing in elder guardianship. Subject: "Preparing for John Whitaker's evaluation," it read. "He's showing signs of PTSD and erratic behavior. We're concerned for his safety." Erratic behavior? The only erratic thing was how fast they'd burn through my savings. I gripped my coffee mug, my knuckles white. "They're saying I'm crazy to justify stealing my life," I growled. Patricia nodded. "It's a textbook setup for financial elder abuse, but we've got them dead to rights with this paper trail. You ready to move?" I didn't hesitate. "Get me in front of them, Patricia. I want them out of my house, and I want them to answer for this." She smirked, a glint in her eye. "Then let's serve them an eviction notice. And John, we're filing criminal charges for identity theft and fraud. They won't see this coming." That afternoon, I drove to Cedar Lane, Patricia's legal papers in a folder on the passenger seat. My heart pounded like it did before a mission, but this wasn't Baghdad, this was personal. I walked into my own house, the smell of Sarah's lavender candles making my stomach churn. Michael was sprawled on the couch, scrolling on his phone. Sarah was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables like nothing was wrong. Lily was upstairs, her laughter faint through the walls. "We need to talk," I said, my voice low, steady, like I was giving orders in a firefight. Michael barely looked up. "Dad, can it wait? We're kinda busy." Sarah glanced over, her smile tight. "Yeah, John, dinner's almost ready. You want some?" I slammed the folder on the counter, the sound cutting through the room like a gunshot. "No, I don't want dinner. I want you both out of my house by the end of the month." Michael's head snapped up, his eyes narrowing. "What the hell are you talking about?" I opened the folder, spreading out the evidence loan documents, credit card statements, the guardianship email. "I'm talking about the $100,000 you stole, the credit cards you opened in my name, the lies you told the VA about my mental health. You think you can lock me away and take everything? You're done." Sarah's knife stopped mid-chop, her face pale. "John, you're overreacting. We were just managing things for you." I cut her off, my voice rising. "Managing? You call a Bahamas trip and a $3,500 grill managing. You mocked me while I was in the hospital, Sarah. You called me a drama queen while I was fighting to live." Michael stood, his fists clenched. "Dad, you're blowing this out of proportion. This is our home now. You can't just kick us out." I stepped closer, my eyes locked on his. "It's my home, Michael. The deed's in my name, and you're about to learn what happens when you betray a Marine." "Oh." Sarah tried to play innocent, her voice shaking. "We didn't mean any harm, John. We were just—" I didn't let her finish. "Save it for the judge. I'm filing charges, identity theft, fraud. You're looking at prison." The room went silent, except for Lily's footsteps coming down the stairs. She peeked in, her eyes wide, confused. I softened my tone, not wanting to scare her. "Lily, honey, go back upstairs. This is grown-up talk." But the look in her eyes told me she knew something was wrong, something bigger than this fight. As I left, Patricia's words echoed in my head. "They're not just stealing money, John. They're stealing your granddaughter's future, too." That hit harder than anything. Lily was caught in their web, and I'd be damned if I let them drag her down with them. I wasn't just fighting for my house or my honor anymore, I was fighting for her. The air in Killeen, Texas, felt thick with betrayal, like the smoke from an IED blast I'd survived in Iraq. Standing in my own living room on Cedar Lane, I just confronted Michael and Sarah with their crimes, $100,000 in forged loans, credit cards racked up for their luxury lifestyle, and a sick plan to have me declared incompetent. Their faces, pale with guilt and defiance, burned into my memory as I walked out, vowing to fight like the Marine I was. But the battle wasn't over. As I drove back to my temporary motel room, the weight of Patricia's words hit me. They're stealing your granddaughter's future, too. Lily, my 2-year-old granddaughter, was caught in their web of lies, and I'd be damned if I let them ruin her life the way they tried to ruin mine. It started with a phone call from Lily's school counselor 2 days later. I was sitting in the motel, sipping lukewarm coffee, staring at the legal papers Patricia had sent over. "Mr. Whitaker," the counselor said, her voice trembling, "I'm worried about Lily. She's been missing school, and when I called her parents, they said she was staying with a neighbor. Is everything okay?" My heart stopped. "A neighbor?" I repeated, my voice tight. "For how long?" The counselor hesitated. 2 weeks, they said. They mentioned a family emergency out of state. Out of state? Michael and Sarah hadn't mentioned any emergency. My gut churned as I remembered the Bahamas trip on my stolen credit card, dated last Christmas. Were they doing it again? I drove straight to the neighbor's house, a small ranch-style place a block from Cedar Lane. Mrs. Carter, an older woman with kind eyes, let me in. "John, I didn't know what to do," she said, wringing her hands. "Sarah dropped Lily off 2 weeks ago, said they were visiting sick relatives in Florida. They didn't leave a number, just said they'd be back soon." I clenched my fists, rage boiling. "Florida? Did Lily say anything?" Mrs. Carter nodded. "She's been quiet, scared, keeps asking for you." My heart broke. Lily, my sweet girl, left like luggage while her parents partied on my dime. I found Lily in Mrs. Carter's guest room, curled up with a book, her eyes red from crying. "Grandpa," she gasped, running to me. I knelt down, hugging her tight, her small frame trembling against my chest. "Why didn't they take me?" she whispered. "They said I'd be in the way." I swallowed the lump in my throat, fighting to keep my voice steady. "You're never in the way, sweetheart. Never." That's when I knew this wasn't just about me anymore. Michael and Sarah weren't just thieves. They were neglectful parents, abandoning their own daughter for a life funded by my blood and sweat. I called Patricia from the motel, Lily asleep on the couch beside me. "They left her for 2 weeks, Patricia," I said, my voice shaking with fury. "While they're off on some vacation, using my money, I want custody of Lily." Patricia didn't miss a beat. "John, we can file for emergency temporary custody. The fraud case strengthens your position, and this abandonment is a slam dunk, but they'll fight dirty." I looked at Lily, her face peaceful in sleep, and felt a resolve harder than steel. Let them try. I fought worse. The next day, Sarah showed up at the motel, her SUV screeching into the parking lot. She banged on the door, her voice shrill. "John, you can't take Lily. She's our daughter." I opened the door, holding the custody papers Patricia had rushed over. "You left her for 2 weeks, Sarah. No call, no note. You think that's parenting?" She stepped closer, her eyes flashing. "You're blowing this out of proportion. We were coming back for her." I held up a credit card statement, my voice cold as a rifle barrel. "Coming back from where? Another trip to Hawaii on my dime? $5,000 in charges last week, Sarah." While Lily was sleeping at a neighbor's, her face crumpled, but not with guilt, with desperation. "John, please, don't do this to our family." "Family?" I roared, my voice echoing across the parking lot. "You stopped being family when you abandoned my granddaughter and stole my life." Lily peeked out from the couch, her eyes wide. I softened, kneeling beside her. "Go back to sleep, honey. I've got this." Sarah tried one last tactic, tears streaming. Lily needs her mom, John. Don't take her from me. I stood, towering over her. You took yourself out of her life when you left her behind. Now get out. As Sarah drove off, I knew this was just the beginning. Lily's safety was at stake, and I'd fight like hell to protect her. But there was more to uncover secrets about Michael and Sarah's plans that would make this betrayal look like child's play. I was about to dig deeper, and what I'd find would change everything. The fight for my granddaughter Lily had lit a fire in me fiercer than any I'd felt in Iraq. Standing up to Michael and Sarah, exposing their $100,000 fraud, their lies about my mental health, and their abandonment of Lily was only the beginning. In Killeen, Texas, where the shadow of Fort Hood looms large, I'd learned that betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from your own blood. But I was a Marine, and Marines don't just survive, we rebuild. As I sat in my motel room, Lily's small hand in mine, I knew the war wasn't over, but the tide was turning. With Patricia Collins, my lawyer, by my side, I was ready to take back my life and give Lily the future she deserved. The legal battle moved fast, like a well-executed mission. Patricia filed for emergency custody of Lily, citing Michael and Sarah's neglect, leaving her with neighbors for 2 weeks while they vacationed on my stolen money. The fraud case was airtight. Forged loan documents, credit card statements, and emails plotting to declare me incompetent. In court, Michael tried to play the victim. "Dad, we were just trying to help," he said, his voice shaky, eyes darting to the judge. Sarah sat beside him, tears streaming, but I saw through her act. "Help," I said, my voice steady as a rifle shot. "You helped yourselves to my savings, my home, and my honor while you left your own daughter behind." The judge wasn't impressed with their crocodile tears. He granted me temporary custody of Lily and set a date for the fraud trial. The house on Cedar Lane, once a symbol of my life with Ellen, had to go. I couldn't live in a place tainted by their lies. Patricia connected me with a real estate agent, Karen Brooks, who knew Killeen like the back of her hand. "John," she said, her Texas drawl warm but firm, "this house'll sell in a heartbeat." She was right. Within a week, we had a cash offer, $450,000 from a young Army couple stationed at Fort Hood. Standing in the empty living room for the last time, I ran my hand over the fireplace where Lily's height marks were etched, memories of Ellen's laughter mixed with the sting of Michael's betrayal. "It's time to let go," I whispered, signing the papers. The sale closed in 30 days, and after legal fees, I walked away with $420,000, enough to start over. With Lily by my side, I moved to Waco, Texas, 60 miles north, a town with wide open spaces and a tight-knit veteran community. I bought a modest 3-bedroom ranch house with a big backyard, using the sale money and my VA pension. For the first time in years, I felt free not just from Michael and Sarah, but from the weight of their lies. The fraud case wrapped up 6 months later. Michael pleaded guilty to identity theft and fraud, facing 3 years in prison, and ordered to pay $70,000 in restitution, about 70% of what they'd stolen. Sarah got 18 months of community service, her lawyer arguing she was under Michael's influence. I didn't buy it, but it didn't matter. Justice wasn't just about the money. It was about stripping away their facade, showing the world who they really were. Lily thrived in Waco. At 12, she was tough, like her old man, but she'd been through too much. We enrolled her in a new school, and I signed us up for therapy to heal the scars of betrayal. I joined the local VFW Post 2000, 148, firing up the grill for Sunday barbecues, swapping stories with new brothers in arms. "You're a hell of a fighter, John," one vet told me, clapping my shoulder. I smiled, watching Lily play soccer with other kids in the yard. "I had to be," I said, For her, oh, the biggest lesson I learned wasn't about fraud or even family. It was about honor, the kind you fight for every day, not just on the battlefield. I'd spent years thinking loyalty meant giving everything to my son, but I was wrong. Honor means standing up for what's right, even when it's your own blood you're facing. It means protecting those who can't protect themselves, like Lily. It means never letting anyone, not even family, steal your dignity. But the fight wasn't over. As I settled into Waco, a new piece of the puzzle came to light, something that made my blood run cold. A call from an unexpected source was about to reveal that Michael and Sarah's betrayal wasn't a one-time scam, it was a pattern, one that stretched back years and threatened others. I wasn't done fighting, and what I'd uncover next would shake me to my core. Sitting on the porch of my new home in Waco, Texas, with the sun dipping low and Lily's laughter echoing from the backyard, I feel a peace I thought I'd lost forever. The war with Michael and Sarah, their betrayal, the $100,000 they stole, the lies that tried to strip my honor taught me something deeper than any battlefield lesson. Honor isn't just about fighting for your country. It's about fighting for your truth, for those you love, like my granddaughter Lily. If you're a veteran, you know what it means to stand tall, even when the enemy is your own family. Check your credit reports, set boundaries, and don't let anyone blood or not steal your dignity. You fought too hard to let that happen. I'm sharing this story because I know I'm not alone. If you've faced betrayal, felt pushed out of your own life, or had to rebuild from nothing, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Your story matters. Hit that like button if this hit home. And please, join our family at GI Dad's Family Drama by subscribing. Together, we can keep fighting for what's right. Because honor? That's the one battle we never stop fighting.